Good afternoon and welcome. This is Andy Booth from Governance Services. Under agenda item number 1, Councillor Andrew Hutchison was appointed as chair prior to the meeting. Can I just ask other members present to confirm that they're happy with this appointment?
I am happy with the appointment.
Thank you. So Councillor Hutchison is formally appointed as chair for the hearing. Pass it over to you now, Chair.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this remote hearing of the Licensing Subcommittee. My name is Councillor Andrew Hutchison, and I'll be chairing today's hearing. Before I proceed any further, can I just remind everybody that today's hearing is streamed on the City Council's YouTube channel. Can I ask, please, the following members of the subcommittee to introduce themselves, please? We have Councillor Richards.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Councillor Linda Richards, representing the Wetherby Ward area.
Thanks, Councillor Richards. And we have Councillor Wenham.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angela Wenham, the councillor for the Roundhere Ward.
Thanks, Councillor Wenham. I'd like to start the hearing today by confirming that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee meets the requirements of the Council's constitution, even though the members of the panel are in remote attendance. And while items today will be fully discussed as usual, remote attendance requires a few slight changes as to how we manage the debate. Therefore, if all attendees can mute their microphones unless I invite them to speak, and this will avoid disruption from background noise. Can all participants please keep their cameras on during the hearing? And all participants will be invited to introduce themselves at the start of the hearing to make it clear to the public observers who will be involved in the proceedings. And could I now invite officers to introduce themselves, and once you've finished, to mute your microphones. So I believe we've got Rob Brown from Legal Services.
Oh, good afternoon. I'm Robert Brown. I'm a solicitor in Leeds City Council's Legal Services. I'm here to support my colleague and fellow solicitor, Philippa Murray, who is the legal advisor today.
Thanks, Rob. And we have Samantha Longfellow for entertainment licensing.
Good afternoon. I'm Samantha Longfellow Penniker. I am the Principal Licensing Officer. Thank you.
It's just worth noting there that we would have had Matthew Nelson as well from entertainment licensing, but he's having connection issues. And then we have Andy Booth from Governance Services.
Thank you, Chair. Andy Booth, and I'll be the clerk to the subcommittee this afternoon.
Thanks, Andy. Could I ask the applicant to introduce themselves? I think we've got Rebecca Ingham and we've got Johnny Adshed.
That's right. Hi, Chair. Yes, my name is Rebecca Ingram. I'm a solicitor from Kite Solicitors, and I'm a solicitor on behalf of the applicant. And I'm here today with Johnny and Nicholas, who will just introduce themselves now as well.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Quadrini. I'm the operations of Purple Door and the owner as well.
Hi, my name's Johnny Adshed and I'm Nicholas's assistant.
Okay, thanks. Have we got all those names there? So I think we only had 2 applicants. We're good with that, Andy, yeah?
Yeah, that's everybody who we're expecting to attend, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we don't have any representation, so we'll go straight back to yourself, Andy.
Right, thank you. So under agenda item number 2, there are no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Under agenda item number 3, we have no exempt information on the agenda today. Agenda item number 4, there are no late items that I'm aware of. And under agenda item number 5, could I ask members if they have any disclosable pecuniary interest to declare?
None from myself.
No. Okay, that's back to you then, Chair.
None whatsoever. None.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so agenda item number 6, which is the application for the renewal of a sex establishment licence for Purple Door, 5 York Place in Leeds. Could I now ask the legal officer, Rob, if you could outline the proceedings for the hearing, please.
Actually, Chair, it's Philippa who's the legal advisor at this this hearing today.
Okay, my apologies, Philippa.
No, not at all. Thank you. Our usual procedure in this type of application is for the applicant to address the committee first, for any other parties, whether in support or in opposition of the application, to then address the committee, and then for the applicant to have the chance to respond to anything said by others. Committee members may wish to ask questions. In this case, I understand from the report in the pack, there are no objectors to this renewal application or by any individual, by any organisation, or from any of the responsible authorities. In making its determination, the subcommittee will consider what is appropriate and proportionate. Grounds for refusal of an application to transfer include that an applicant is unsuitable to hold the licence by reason of having been convicted of an offence, or for any other reason. That if the licence were to be granted, renewed or transferred, the business to which it relates would be managed by or carried on for the benefit of a person other than the applicant, who would be refused the grant, renewal or transfer of such a licence if they made the application themselves. Or that the number of sex establishments or of sex establishments of a particular kind in the relevant locality at the time the application is determined is equal to or exceeds the number which the authority consider appropriate for that locality. That the grant or renewal of the licence would be inappropriate having regard to the character of the relevant locality or the use to which any premises in the vicinity are put, to the layout, character or condition of the premises, vehicle, vessel or stall in respect of which the application is made. In relation to time limits, the regulations permit the subcommittee to set a time limit on representations, providing the same time limit applies to all of the parties. The usual time limit is 15 minutes per party, and this can be split between an initial presentation and then a summing up at the end after questions from members. In this case, can I perhaps ask Ms. Ingram how you would wish to deal with it, whether you would wish to address the committee in one go or split your presentation into two parts?
Yeah, on the basis that there are no objectors, I'm quite happy to just speak all at once if that makes it easier. Of course, I'm happy to sum up if there are any issues that arise out of the questions, but certainly 15 minutes is going to be more than enough for me today, and I'm perfectly happy to do that in one go, as I say.
Right, so 15 minutes is sufficient. Thank you. In relation to witnesses, can I ask, do you have any witnesses to call who you want to call to give evidence today?
Thank you. No, there are no witnesses to call. Obviously, Johnny and Nicholas are here in the event that the committee have any questions, but I don't intend to call them as witnesses, no.
Okay, thank you. In relation to documents, all documents that have been submitted have been copied and circulated to the subcommittee in advance. So you should all have the same original pack with the agenda report running to 72 pages in total. If anybody doesn't have that pack, could they perhaps unmute the microphone and let me know that that's the case? I'll take it that we all have that pack in that case. It would be helpful if referring to documents to identify which document you're referring to by the page number in the agenda pack. Please note that your presentation is your only opportunity to address the subcommittee directly, so you should try to make sure you've included everything that you wish to say and to have taken into account. The committee has read the bundle, but this hearing is an opportunity for you to emphasise or expand upon any points you would like the committee to focus on. After your presentation and after any questions, the committee will go into a private session in a virtual breakout room. If members then have additional questions to ask, they will return to the main meeting in order to ask those questions. And for that reason, all parties are asked to remain in the main meeting until they are asked to leave. All the parties present will be informed once the hearing has ended and will be advised of the decision in writing within 5 working days of today's date. Can I ask, does anyone have any questions or concerns about the procedures that I have just outlined? And if you do, perhaps unmute your microphone and raise anything. No. if there are no questions, that's the procedure for the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Philippa. Is it worth, just for the record of minutes, noting a third gentleman with Johnny and Nicholas has attended?
I'm Michael Quadrini. I'm Nicholas's father.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, thanks. Samantha, would you like to present the application for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members are asked to consider the application to renew and also to vary the sex establishment licence for the premises known as Purple Door at 5 York Place, Leeds. It should be noted at this point that any reference in the report to a variation of the licence is in error, and on this occasion the application is made to solely renew the licence like for like. In order to provide members of the licensing subcommittee with an overview of the sex establishment licences in Leeds and the regulation of them, background information has been included in the report at point 2. The history of these premises specifically can be noted at point 3 of the report. The application is made by Ruby May 2 Limited and mirrors the provisions of the existing licence. The application applies to the ground floor and basement level of the premises, and the proposed hours of operation also remain the same, which are from 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. Sunday to Thursday and 10 p.m. till 5 a.m. Friday and Saturday. A copy of the existing licence is available at Appendix A of the report on page 15, and a copy of the renewal application can be viewed at Appendix B on page 23. Also available on page 41 at Appendix C is the supporting information applied with the application, including in-house policies and codes of conduct. A consideration for today's committee is the external appearance of the premises. Illustrations of the premises exterior are available in the agenda pack at Appendix D on page 61. And on comparing the images to those submitted with previous applications, there does not appear to be any material change to the exterior of the premises. Another consideration for members is advertising and promotional material. On this occasion, no such material has been submitted, and if the application is successful, the operator will have to rely on material approved by a previous licensing subcommittee. The application has not attracted any representations. However, members of the licensing subcommittee are still required to determine the application to renew the licence in accordance with the sex establishment statement of licensing policy. Part of that policy takes into account sensitive premises within the vicinity of the applying premises, and to aid members, officers have produced a map to identify the location of sensitive premises in the area at Appendix F on page 65. The categories of sensitive premises is available at 6.3 of the report. And finally, Chair, the standard conditions which are set out in the policy can be found on page 67 at Appendix G. And that's the application. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Samantha. Can I now invite the applicant to present their case, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors. So as you've heard in the introductions, I'm here today with Nicholas and with Johnny, who are the long-time owner and operators of Purple Door, which has been trading at 5 York Place in Leeds for over 15 years. Your agenda papers, as Samantha has explained, set out the history of the site and of the SAV licensing regime in Leeds. As Samantha has also confirmed, whilst my client has sought to vary the hours of their SEV licence in previous years, this year they do not seek to do so. They did not seek to do so in the application, and as Samantha has mentioned, any mention of that in the papers is in error. So this year my client simply seeks a renewal of the SEV on exactly the same terms as it was granted previously. So that is what you're being asked to consider today, just purely and simply a renewal of the existing SEV licence. Now, as I say, the agenda papers set out the history of the site, but I'll just highlight this briefly before going on to talk about the application itself. So when the regime changed in Leeds in 2012, Purple Door was one of 7 SEVs granted a licence in the city. Review of policy then took place in 2013, and the numbered limit, the maximum limit of 4, was introduced at that time. Purple Door retained its licence at that time as one of the maximum of 4. and it's had its licence renewed every year since then. Now, as I say, whilst my client has previously sought variations of the hours, and these have been unsuccessful on the basis of those hours being outside of Leeds policy in terms of SEV hours, there have never been any issues with the renewal of this SEV. It's been renewed without issue every year since 2013. No responsible authority has ever raised an objection to these renewals, and no responsible authority has ever had occasion to visit my client's premises for anything other than sort of a routine visit or inspection in the history of its trading. And this is further confirmed by the fact that there have been no representations and no observations submitted by West Yorkshire Police in relation to this renewal application whatsoever. That remains the case this year. No objections have been received, as you're aware, during the consultation period, and there also haven't been any late objections in relation to this renewal. So what we would say is that nothing has changed in terms of the operation of this premises since the council last determined to grant this SEV when it was renewed last year. Firstly, that's because my client has continued to trade in the same way for a number of years in any case. And secondly, nothing has changed because, as you'll be well aware, for much of the last year, my client unfortunately has not been able to trade their premises. However, on that basis, it would be our submission today that given that nothing has changed in terms of the operation, the character of the premises or anything similar, and nothing has changed in terms of any parties being concerned about the way that this premises trades, we would submit that there would be no reason this year to reach a different decision to that which was reached last year in renewing this SEV licence. Now, the grounds for any refusal of an SEV, as were explained to you by Philippa, are split into mandatory and discretionary grounds. You'll be aware that the mandatory grounds for refusal are as follows. Either the applicant is under 18, which we can clearly see is not the case. The applicant has a disqualification following the revocation of a licence. The applicant is not resident or, as its company, incorporated in the United Kingdom. Again, that is not the case. And there's been a previous refusal of an SEV at the premises in the previous 12 months. Again, we're aware from the agenda report that that's not the case. So it would be our submission that none of these mandatory grounds apply in relation to this application. Moving on then to the discretionary grounds, and again, it would be our submission that none of those grounds apply in relation to this application. The applicant is clearly suitable, we would submit, having traded this premises for a number of years without any issue whatsoever, and the business is managed by this company and for their benefit solely. The number of SEVs in Leeds is currently at 3, and there is a maximum of 4. Purple Door is already one of those 3, so would not be increasing the number or taking the number over that maximum number of 4. So finally, we can turn to the grounds which are set out in paragraph 5.5 of your agenda papers. That's on page 10. These set out that you may refuse an application here if the grant of the licence would be inappropriate due to either the character of the locality, the use to which premises in the vicinity are put, or the layout, character and condition of the premises. So if I just take each of those briefly in turn, the character of the locality is, as it always has been, a commercial area in the heart of the city centre. We would submit that that's an entirely appropriate location for an SEV, and that continues to be the case. Located around my client's premises are commercial uses, mainly offices and other businesses. Again, none of which has changed in the last year. There's no new uses come into the area that would change the situation at all. And in any case, my client's premises doesn't interact much with the other sort of offices and businesses in the area, given the hours that it trades. It's not located materially nearby any sensitive uses, as is demonstrated by the map that's at Appendix F, page 65 of your agenda papers. And that's confirmed as well by the lack of any representations in relation to this application. If we had any sensitive uses in the vicinity, we would expect to see representations from the users, the operators, the owners of those sensitive uses. The layout, character and condition of the premises is the same as it always has been, and that has long been deemed appropriate for use as an SEV. The external appearance of the premises is also, as Philippa has set out, to be approved by you. And as per the images at Appendix D, as I think Samantha said, this hasn't changed either in the last year. And as you'll be able to see from those images, the use of the premises is very low key from the street in any case. The application itself explains that the internal use of the premises can't be seen from the street because it needs to be accessed by stairs up and down through into lobbies. So again, that interaction clearly isn't causing any issues insofar as any other businesses, uses, operators in the area are concerned. So on that basis, we would submit that the location, the use, the operation of the premises are all entirely appropriate now, much as they always have been. And as I've said, this has been underlined by lack of any representation whatsoever in relation to this application. So on the basis of the weight of that evidence, on the fact that nothing has changed, that no representations have been received, that no responsible authorities or indeed any other interested parties are concerned in any way in relation to this application, we would respectfully ask the committee today to grant this renewal so that my client is able to continue to operate his business, of course, as and when the COVID restrictions are lifted in such a way as allows him to do so. Should you have any questions, councillors, be very happy to answer them or to hand over to my client if they're better placed to answer them. But otherwise, that's all I've got to say for the moment. Thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you very much. So yeah, we'll go to questions from ward members, of which I have a few, if that's okay, if I can start with those. It's regarding on your policies around the fining of dancers, and I think we've got it on page 44, item 1. There's mention there of fining dancers, and then there's also on page 45, item 15, which is a mention for if dancers arrive after 10 p.m. for them to pay a late floor fee. And I just wondered, that's kind of against council policy to have those in there.
Okay. Guys, can I hand over to you? If that's an issue in terms of council policy, is that something that we can take out of the code of conduct here?
Sorry, yes, of course we can, yes. We don't actually fine dancers for that. If they do turn up late, they just don't get another shift that week. So it's not a case of fining.
Okay, so can we...
Okay, so we can see that...
Sorry, Chair.
Go on, carry on.
So we can,
So
can we have a look at the wording then? Taken out of the code of conduct. So guys, if we have a look at just tweaking this code of conduct, we can amend the wording so that it doesn't refer to those fines and pull that out. Is that okay?
Yes, that's absolutely fine, yes.
Okay, and then the other one was page 49. You have a model, like a release policy that you ask them to sign, and I think it's around images, digital images and such like. I wondered if you could just talk us around that policy, if you would, please.
Sorry, what would you like to know? You put the mic on, Johnny.
Yes.
Sorry, what would you like to know?
If you could just talk us around that policy, talk us through what that policy actually is and why it's there and how you use it, I guess.
1 second, just
I think it's page 49 of the.
I'm just quickly reading through it.
Okay.
Will it be a case of when we've had photographs taken for the for the website and such?
I think this relates to our website and the fact that if there's photographs taken to the website that belong to us, type of thing. I don't think this is anything else in that. We don't allow images taken in the club. We don't allow Facebook or Instagram images taken in the club, anything like that from the girls or whatever. So this may be relating to the website.
Is it so that you have some sort of regulatory control over images that are taken?
Yes,
that kind of
I would think so. I think so. Yes, I think that's what it must be. as I said, we don't allow images in the club anyway. We certainly don't allow them to girls to take photographs in the club or the public for that sake.
Okay.
So it's just a case of any photographs you take yourselves in terms of the ownership of those photographs, yeah?
Yes, basically, yes.
Okay, then I just for clarity, you have mentioned already, but I just want to get some confirmation clarity, which is your advertising and promotional material hasn't changed and is not likely to change when hopefully in the new year you get to open up again.
No, it's unlikely.
Yes, correct, Chair.
It's unlikely to
Sorry,
change.
Nicholas.
No, I've got no intention of changing it.
So
And we're aware of this, that if to change, it would need to be approved by the council. That we couldn't just introduce any new promotional material without approval.
right. Okay. So it's more than unlikely. It's less than unlikely, should I say? It's not going to happen.
It's not going to change. To be honest, that material has been like that for about 2 or 3 years. I'm not changed it. I'm not changed it. Then it's the same offers, the same deals that coincide every year.
Okay. And then just one last one for myself. Well, actually, no intention for any changes inside with regards to building structure, signage outside, and then also no intention for the variation of opening hours.
Nothing
when you do get to open up in the new year.
Eventually, when we get to no, nothing at all.
Okay, excellent. That's all from myself. Other members, do we have any questions for the applicant?
I think you've covered the ground that most of us were considering. Certainly mine was about the advertisements, etc., the flyers, whether they would change, so that's fine.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Richard. Councillor Wenham?
Yes, still as well, but my only concern is when you ask him the question about 49, it was very vague.
Okay, so that was the page with regards to the images. So my client has explained that this is a policy which is just around the ownership of any photographs that they take within the premises themselves. So in terms of reproduction of those images anywhere else and anywhere that's sort of outside of their control. What I can do, Councillor, if it would assist, is have a look at the wording of this policy with my client as well, and just make sure that we tweak the wording so that it's clear that that's all that it relates to. If you guys are happy with that, Nicholas and Johnny, we'll just have a look and just clarify that for the future. Is that okay?
I can take that whole paragraph out. To be honest, it doesn't really relate to anything. The images have been taken for the website. The website's up and running, and no other images are allowed in the club, in or out anyway. So it's unnecessary.
So your only intention is around any photos that you take yourselves. So let me have a look at redrafting that for you, just so that it clarifies that's what it relates.
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
It's something that we can also discuss during the deliberations as well on that item. Councillor Wenham, do you have anything more?
No, that's all right. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Then I guess if we have no further questions, the subcommittee will now move into a private session to deliberate on the application. Could I ask that all parties, including the applicant and their representatives and the licensing officer, remain available should we have any additional questions? If there are any additional questions, we'll be invited back into the meeting by the clerk. We have been experiencing some slight issues when we break out to rooms, so just bear with us if you can, and when we go into deliberation, hopefully it goes smooth, and we'll be back shortly with possible questions or the conclusion. Thanks, Andy.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Members, the legal officer and myself will now retire to a private breakout room for discussion, and we'll return to the main meeting when those discussions have concluded.
Yes.
We just need to wait for everybody to come back from the breakout room. This is where sometimes things can go wrong. Hopefully it'll all be okay. So we're just waiting for one councillor. Are we all back now, Andy?
Everybody's back in now, Chair.
Great. So thanks everybody for your patience and attendance today. This concludes our business for today, and in line with how the licensing subcommittee are working now, notification will be given to the applicant within 5 working days. So thanks everybody for attending. You're all welcome to leave the room, and if we